Let me say good morning to each and every one of you again, and to thank you for turning out in this session. As supervisor of the Eastern Agricultural District, I want to show you that going forward, a lot of training sessions are planned for the farmers. The session today basically will be on control of flower moth in peppers, because all the farmers here will agree that it's a serious problem in peppers. With due respect to the people at the back, the agricultural shops, and in Grenada, from my experience, farmers relying too much on chemicals to control pests and disease. It's every pest is like us. Every pest, every organism has an environment under which they function best. And all we need to do is to understand the environment under which the pests thrive and create an environment that is not suitable for the pests. And we have a serious reduction in the pests. Because if the environment, you know one of the reasons they say poor people have a lot of children? And rich people don't have much children? Poor people have a lot of free time. So you have to ask yourself the question, what do they do with their free time? Entertainment. Alright, so those of you who are the younger people, you know there is a song I always tell farmers on the radio, in the dance, if you want me to go, you can be cooking the way you do, you can be looking the way you do. It's the same thing for the pests. So what the guy is saying in that song, tell you lady, although you throw my things out, you put the things in a garbage bag and you throw it by the roadside, you tell me get out your place, don't come inside. But if you're cooking so nice, and you're looking so nice, I wouldn't go. And it's the same thing with the pests and disease. If you have an environment that is so very well suited for the pests, a lady called me and she told me she having a real problem with fleas and things underneath the house. I said, you have dogs? She said, no. But when she lives in a high apartment, underneath the house full of dry dust, the neighbor dogs come and lie down below them. You must have a problem with fleas, because that's a perfect condition for the fleas to thrive. But if you create an environment where the place is damp and moist, obviously. So my message to you today as district supervisor, if you want to control pests and disease, you first have to understand the environment under which the pests and disease thrive and create an environment that is not suited for them. In this regard with the hot peppers, with peppers, flower moth, one of the areas that farmers don't pay attention to is the history of the area. If you ask my staff, for the entire year, I've been saying to them, we should advise farmers in the low-lying areas avoid doing cabbages and the cabbage family crops. Why? Because one of the major problems of the cabbages in the dry season is that of white flies, is that of the flower moth. And if you're producing cabbage during the dry season, you're creating the perfect environment for the white flies. The white flies don't like their bodies get wet, and they love cabbages because it's easy for them to hide in the cabbage, fold up the leaves, and it's very difficult for the farmer to control white flies in cabbages. So during the dry season, you have to select other crops that the white flies is not so favorable for. Green corn, for example, your vine crops. So once you choose that, you will be able to, you're on the right way to controlling your pests and disease.
It all comes back to not relying on one mode of management. So like if somebody calls the office and the first thing, oh, what do I use? So you know already the first start is a pesticide, right? And sometimes you really don't have to recommend a pesticide. But when you really get down, if you're into farming and this country, because remember, in Grenada we have very small farms. Very, very small farming units. 2 acres, I mean, you have to ask, what is your size of your farm and the size of your farm? Few people will say it's beyond 10 acres. Now when it comes to vegetables, and if you have 10 acres, you're probably into a lot of tree crops. When it comes to vegetables, where the problems keep building up much more quickly, you're talking about persons farming on 1 acre, 2 acre, some people have done intensive on probably half an acre, which you have to just do 1 and 2 crops and you keep rotating, but what you rotate to, right? So today we want to focus on peppers, and the pest we want to highlight is the flower-bud moth. But just to say that peppers is a crop, and peppers you have, well, let's say 3 types that we grow here, but you know the moth problem has shown up now in the what we call the seasoning pepper or pimento pepper. We're not a lot into hot peppers now, and then you have the salad peppers, right? But when you grow peppers, it's generally considered as most of the pests will be similar. So you'll have the flower-bud moths as we want to focus on. You have stem borers. At one time, stem borers was considered one of the main pests of peppers, right? You have mites, right, being another main issue. And then you have a couple diseases along the way, right? So what has led to this being a major problem? Because basically, in my recollection, probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was probably just a minor problem, right? We focused a lot on stem borers and mites when we went to pepper trading. And the flower-bud moth was only, probably farmers lost 5%, 10%, and they could have lived with that. Now I've seen a farm about a month ago, and when I went there, it was these little peppers. Or some people call it cocoa drop pepper? Yeah, I know that the right word, but very small. It's not developed. And it's about 90-95%. So I said to the farmer, we need to pick out, and the farmer said I should start picking, but no, it's too much work now. Because you're going to harvest, and you're harvesting like for waste, because to pick out now is just to destroy, you know? So, just on my own thought, I could be wrong, it's like seasoning pepper, they tell you good price, ready market. I think George Grayson used to use that term. Farmers will produce. So what's the price of seasoning peppers? $7, $8, $6? Up to 10. So the price is dead. So everybody's growing now seasoning peppers. Right? So whether you're a farmer, whether you part-time, whether you have land, you don't have land, you grow seasoning pepper, right? So that problem now has just multiplied continuously over the years. So what is the flower-bud moth? It's a moth, as we keep saying. We may not see it in the field because we see the damage. It's a micro moth. It's very, very small. Probably literature says the wingspan is about 3 millimeters. So that is very small. So you don't really see the moth. You may see the little one fluttering sometimes, it could be, because there are several micro moths out there. And you know, we have tried collecting and look at a lab, but sometimes they don't even come out when we try to hold. What it does, it attacks, it lays the eggs on the leaf or into the flower bud, and the young worm, the young larvae, will go its way into the young fruit as the fruit gets into fruit set and developing. And this is where the damage is created. That young fruit, because the larvae are worms of insects, that's the active feeding stage. So they feed out on the inside of the peppers, and they don't develop, they don't grow. So right there you have losses, right? After all your effort, fertilize, whatever, you have losses. And this is a problem mainly in the Caribbean, Latin American region, and the southern USA. So it's a problem that has been here for a very long time. What do we do to manage it? Does everybody have the problem? Everybody has had it from a very long time. And what kind of losses you sustain? And what do you do? What have you been doing?
I could remember, personally I don't have too much pepper, but I could remember at one time I had a problem with this. I used Roga at that time, and to me I got some power control as a result of using the Roga. Presently, I don't know how it would this time.
But you say you use Roga, it was a one shot of Roga, or you had to spray Roga repeatedly?
2 applications.
Now what do you spray it or you drench?
Spray.
You spray it, right? Yeah. Anybody else? What are the pesticides we have been using? Or what are the tactics we have been using? Okay. If it's not pesticides, say what else we have used. Everybody grow peppers? Eh? Humectin, again another product.
Interestingly enough, you have to realize that some farmers may get better results than others. Maybe because of the fact of your location. Because for example, I eat peppers. What have you found that there weren't much people doing farming along my route? So I didn't have much complications with it. Okay. So what you may find like in the low-lying areas, when I'm in the disease or even let's say in this case the pest, will just move from field to field. Even though you do crop rotation, in this instance, you have the mosquitoes, couple of farmers who are next to you. So it's just like the mosquito effect. You clean around your house, but if your neighbor basically is not really keeping their area clean, you still would have some kind of
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm just wanting to share that experience. I didn't have much problem, but I think it's because of the area.
Yeah. Sometimes when a problem becomes widespread, you need to focus on area-wide management. So you can't just come and focus on one farm, but you have to deal and make sure that all the farms who are growing that crop in the area is trying to effect some sort of control. And that's how you could bring it down, because if one person is doing something good, they clean, they spray the chemicals, they pick out, they do whatever they do, and then elsewhere it's not being done, then the problem will remain, it will remain. Right, so there are a number of, I wouldn't want to say there's a number of products, but I just want to touch back on Mr. Lazarus' point of not just focusing only on pesticides. So there are a few products we will say yes, we will need to use, but once you know the problem is there, once the crop is coming, sorry, Lazarus.
Yeah, just want to ask a question. Is the pepper moth specific to the peppers? What other?
From the literature I've reviewed, it's peppers, and there is something they listed as ground cherry. I'm not sure what. Yeah. So they haven't listed as the host range, or even other solanaceous plants. You didn't see tomatoes and so on coming down on the list. Yeah. So it seems to be, specific, fairly specific to peppers. We'll do the usual thing with management, because moths tend to flutter around, weeds, the little flower of the weeds, I don't know, probably a little nectar they may be looking for, they will have a hiding place. The other thing with moths, they are most time what we call like nocturnal, so they become active in the night. So most of the micro moths, information tell you that as dusk fall, they get very active. So that would be important for even some of your control activities and where you want to target, right? Sometimes these days I say rotation with a little hesitancy, because as I said before, sometimes your land space is small, but rotation in this case, once we have a limited host range, you can always rotate to something that is not likely to attack, right? So sometimes you just need to take a break. You're talking about sanitation. Well, apart from weeding the small fruits, it's critical to remove those small fruits that are already infected, right? Remove them from the field. So don't pick them and drop them in the field, or don't ignore them when you're doing your other harvest. So probably while you're harvesting, you see them, you might have a separate tub. You just throw the small ones into that. And when you finish with that, either you tie it, if it's not a lot, tie it in a plastic bag and let it suffocate or whatever for as long as possible, or if you can burn it, you burn it. So try to destroy those small, and even if the losses is minor, I think we should just focus on destroying the small fruit, because it will be minor today, but in a year or two, because what happens once the life cycle, they use the fruit to complete their life cycle. So what you'll find happening is that you'll see a very tiny hole at a certain stage in the ripe fruit. That's when the new moth has emerged and is now going on to do something else. Right?
And how long is the life cycle from what you looking at?
Okay, I don't have a definite days, but these moths eggs about 5 days, larvae is around 10 to 14 days, and then pupae will be close to a week. So we're talking about 3 weeks, around 20 days. Yeah.
Because that ties into the first question I asked: is the moth specific to the flower, the peppers? Because if we know the life cycle of the moth, and we know that they're basically specific to peppers, and we have an area like say Union, and the farmers are here, they will understand that we could hold up on peppers for about 3 months. If everybody covered it. In some countries that's how because it will be easier. Such as you mentioned, you use Roga. Roga is a systemic chemical. And nowadays we want healthier food to consume. Now to know that the food you consume is free of pesticide and this kind of thing. So once you understand that this pest is specific to peppers, and it will last for say 28 to 31 days. If you hold up for say 3 months, and you get rid of the peppers in the area, I mean it might be hard, but even if you get rid of some, you will reduce the high incidence of the flower moth. So when you start back, you wouldn't have that big major problem. I know if farmers understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, this is a good approach. You have to be coordinated and, have cooperation so that you could get to that point, and you have to have somebody working diligently to achieve it.
Why we have this severe problem with the flower moth, like the cell thing. Like everybody growing peppers, even in the open garden, but everybody having the same problem. So we rely on chemicals to control the problem. If you understand that the moth is specific to peppers, that it lives over 28 days, and you get rid of the pepper field, you burn them in a location, it doesn't mean that when you resume, you wouldn't have it at all, but you have less incidents because the population has declined.
Yeah. Any combination that will bring down the population of the moth will be critical. Sorry. But there are other moths called pepper moths. So, okay. Yeah. So, this one is, I should have used the Pepper Flower-bud Moth. Because they're very, very tiny moths. The idea of intercropping is always a good way to break what we call monocultures. Right. And I should have mentioned at the beginning, monocultures is also what leads, because if you grow in just a patch, you take this whole plain field and you grow in one crop, the pest that crop like, that pest will develop and multiply in that area much more quickly. Right. So that's what. So if you want to break the cycle of monoculture, it's always good to do mix or intercrop and so on. So this is a good suggestion. So remember, we're looking at an integrated pest management approach, which will take into consideration a lot of different factors. So yeah, we heard a few products mentioned. So we talked Roga, and we talked Numectin. I did a short list yesterday. I sort of left out some of the more tougher ones like Roga. In the 90s and probably 10 years ago, we mentioned Roga diazina. They will work. They will knock out the adults. The critical thing in applying pesticide is also the timing, right? And I mentioned a short while ago, they tend to be active as night falls, right? So of course you won't spray pesticides in the night, but if you need to apply, you'll want to apply late in the evening. That's why it's cool. They might come out because moths and so on, some of them will most likely hide under the leaf or hide somewhere else during the day, during the heat of the day. So you need to have the coolness of the day, or as the evening is falling, they will become active and start coming out, right? So that's one, the timing of the application. Two, if we know the problem, once we know the problem in the area, I would recommend applying before flowering start, or just as flowering start. Because a lot of insects, because they come to the flower bud, whatever, if it's a hormone or whatever the flowers give up, that's when they get active too. And they will start homing in on the peppers. So once flowering starts, you may need to look at doing some management practices, right? So neem is a good product. Neem is a repellent, and it's like a growth regulator also for the young stages. So I would recommend neem, and being a plant extract, it's less less harsh on the environment. Let's put it that way. Right? Neem is used in organic production. Numectin was mentioned. Protector is also as a systemic. UBT or dipel, any one of them, I think it's a biological product. Dipel and UBT will work on the worms. Now the thing with the worm, because remember I said it lays the eggs on the leaf or sometimes into the flower bud, and then when the worm hatch, it will take some time and then find its way into the young fruit. So there's a short window where that little tiny worm is just about somewhere looking around to bore into the fruit. That's when I think you need to catch it. I don't know if, well I won't say I don't know. I know there is just the risk when you, based on what you're using to apply, if you spray during heavy flowering, you may knock off a few flowers. But you will have to measure that against what the moth will, what the moth will damage and leave.
True.
Yeah. So the dipel or the UBT, again, is biological. It's made of a bacteria, bacillus, that once it gets into the water, it gets active and it just stops the larva or the worm from feeding. That's simply how it works, right? And it's used in organic production. So I'll recommend it as part of the rotation. If the situation is very bad, it's no problem. You could fall on a few of the tougher stuff like your karate or diazinon and so on. But the risk with those, because it's also listed that there is I'm not sure if we have it here, I've never observed, there is a wasp, I think in Jamaica, they reported there's a small brown wasp. They call it brown boy locally in Jamaica. that will attack them.
Okay, so the balance is balanced.
Right. So these heavier products will most likely, if you have that in your field, will most likely knock them out. Right?
When you show for natural I think there's no hydrogen peroxide, which is very effective too.
Well, I've never used hydrogen peroxide in a field situation. So just enlighten us. It's good to learn.
Yeah.
For moths,
Yeah.
generally.
Yeah.
I've seen it where you use hydrogen peroxide a lot in home garden situation. But sometimes I need to know if it works properly before I extend it to a major farming situation. So if you have your experience, thanks for sharing. Yeah.
It's new very good research now.
Yeah, Robert.
Excuse me, Another thought, right? I don't know if it was ever introduced in field agriculture, right? Something that we use as pest control professionals, something called growth inhibitor. And what that basically does, it stops the life cycle of the pest. As I said, I don't know if you could use it for in the field. I don't know how safe it is, I don't know the research on that. But what I do know, if we use that for cockroaches, and we have an infestation, we're trying to get rid of them, we're trying to control them, that is a really effective method that we have implemented in our program that has really proven to work. Because once you get in contact, the contact insecticide, you get in contact with the insect, it actually stops the life cycle. So you have a pregnant mother, it will stop her from making children.
Okay, so we have, I just mentioned this insect growth regulators, and I said neem is one such product. But you have other specialized one on the market. I think Danitol, I don't know, the garden people are here. We used to have Applaud before, and I'm trying to remember the other. Admiral is an insect growth regulator.
You're glad you mentioned because in the days when we used to do a lot of hot peppers, we had an insect growth regulator Applaud.
Yeah, Applaud.
Which was very effective. And the use was very heavy for much using a lot and get control. But later on down the line, what you find from that is that it was causing men to be sterile. So it's the same relationship. And that is why you see I keep stressing on the need. Yes, I keep stressing on the need. Chemicals and poisons are not specific. Poison that killing the pest will kill you too.
Yeah.
And what is happening is that you will not be ingesting it in a strong does. But over the years, when the body ingests something that it cannot really digest, it stores it in its fatty tissues. I see the lungs and the kidneys and this kind of thing start failing. So with the case with our plug, why our plug was withdrawn from the market, because we realized that over the years it was causing men to be sterile. And the people decided that there need to be further studies as to the other effects of the human being. So they just withdraw it from the market. So here again, we see the need for integrated pest control. Because everything you do will have consequences down the line. Everything, what action you take today, will have consequences down the line. Cause and effect. So farmers have to start to think about, and I guess in Mr. Peter's presentation, when you go to the field, you need to see traps, the molasses traps, different traps, that will attract the pest and kill it, rather than depending on chemicals.
Yeah, somebody you want
Yeah, I was just saying, so isn't there a method of, because I don't think that even after you apply any chemical, is there a method of sanitizing your product before it's being sold? Because with these chemicals, isn't there something that can cause a reverse chemical effect?
The thing with pesticide, you have, once something could be absorbed into the tissues, you know, like somewhat systemic that can go in. There is a period that manufacturers will give you for it to be whatever reaction, phase out, degrade. Some of them probably with sunlight and exposure could break down in the environment. But there is a withdrawal period or a pre-harvest period. So many times they give you certain times on the label. When I see some of them, really 2 days for that one. But I can argue with the manufacturers. But the other thing, with the 2 days or the 5 days, some of them are crop specific. Remember, when they produce this product, they have researched it on specific crops. And each crop have their own system of dealing with things, their internal hormonal and reactions and so on, of breaking down. So 2 days might be for, let's say, cabbage, but when it comes to tomatoes, it might be 5 days. And so it varies, and sometimes they did not, when you read the label, they will list all the crops that they would have tested and recommended it to use on. So sometimes we generalize. So even though once we say it's good for whitefly, but the testing was whitefly on cabbage, tomatoes, and beans, now they didn't test it for whitefly on corn, but we'll just still use it on whitefly on corn. So it has a difference. I'm not saying this to sort of, give a reason for pesticide, but there is a withdrawal or a pre-harvest interval that must be observed. And if you can add sufficient more days to it, people will call me and ask me, how much days for use that? And if I know the product says 7 days, I will tell them about 12 to 15 days. That's just it.
Can you go shopping?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Lauren.
You also have to remember too that even though you may not eat all the peppers that you're growing, you spray it. The farmer is the one spraying it. So you'll be exposed to it a lot more than somebody who's buying it and will be eating it. Because, seasoning peppers, you use a certain amount, you don't use. But you are in the field every day. You have to walk through, you have to think, you're going to be touching, and if you're not wearing the proper protective clothes, you don't have on a respirator mask, then as you spray, you inhale, and it's touching your skin and it's going in your body. So you also have to be careful that those, as you use it, you're not just thinking about the food side, but you're also thinking about your side, because you're working so hard, you have to be able to enjoy your life after. So you have to make sure that you do take care of yourself also.
Yeah. All right. So I was just trying to round up the portion where we were discussing the pesticide. This product, I'm not promoting any company. It's called Spinosa because we will have a handout in a while and you see it at the end. right? Well, the name of the product is called Solve, but the active ingredient is something called spinosad. And it's very expensive, so it's sold elsewhere as Entrust, Tracer, and there are a couple of other brand names on the market in the US. We use it at the pest management for fruit fly management. We haven't used it constantly because it's kind of costly, but use a very small amount. It's biological again in its, well, I won't say it's biological, it's used in organic production. What it really is, it's a fermentation product of some bacteria. So it's not the regular traditional manufactured pesticides in the conventional way. It's listed mainly for fruit flies, thrips, and I think moths. So this is one of the reasons I sort of brought it here, and because I want to just transition into traps, right? Because moths, we all put on our lights, and when the rain season seems to have broken out. And if you leave your lights on in the veranda, you'll just see a whole set of moths just banging around there. You have to sweep out the morning. Well, it happens by me, I don't know. Right? So, they are attracted to lights. So, in surveys and other things, light trapping is one of the ways they try to catch moths in the environment and so on. This is a light trap, we call it black light trap. And the power source could be, well, of course plugged in, or it can be a car battery, right? There are the connections. And what happens is like a UV light, and they will come. Now you see this glass here, they will knock, and this is like a funnel. Let me hold it. I end up breaking one of you, and I have to reorder. So it's a funnel, and it goes down at the bottom, so you can collect. So for researchers and so on, you can collect live specimens and investigate and so on. The cost of getting, they normally sell the components sometimes separate, but the cost of putting everything together is probably 170 something US. So it's not very cheap. But I just want to show you, because they are very simple versions. You can go into the hardware, and there are small light traps that are there that sometimes. And one of the ways of, when you put it up in the field, it's not just the light. You spread a white sheet at the back. Right? So you order in the field, and that white sheet is blowing in the night. If the moths are way down there, they will come to this white sheet here, and they will hit into, and then you catch them. There are a few things I need. It's more like trials, but I'll just mention the products. Molasses traps. So this is regular molasses, which you can dilute. For trapping, the thing with the traps is getting the right design to catch the moth. So I have to work with a farmer in Simon to look at various trap designs. This is a simple cat trap that is used. There are larger versions that is used. So what you have here is just a triangle. This is an insert that would come out, and it's sticky, right? So we just need to get one of the attractants, whether it's molasses, soap and some little sponge or something, to get them to come in here. And once they land, they get stuck. It's used for other moth and fruit fly species. This is just a mixture using this product. It's called protein bait. For fruit flies, most insects need a source of protein for reproduction. And protein bait again, the base I think is molasses with a lot of other protein, soybean and so on. And so I just probably want to compare these two products. Alright? And there is a moth bait formula, and I'll pass it out in a while. A beer bait. Yeah, believe it or not, we could give the moth some beer. It's beer, molasses, with sugar, apple, yeast. You leave to ferment for a while, and you could come up with some trapping system. Some traps can be very simple. You cut a window, because once there is a food source, and if we, for example, if you use the beer bait or whatever, you soak it on something, it's hung up in here, a little molasses here and just try to get them to enter. Once they come in and they fall in the solution, that's it. Right? So you can start experimenting with molasses. I know a few years ago, Maxi, we had a program with molasses traps with the Cuban attachment troll. I'm not sure if you want to just give a...
It was a simple trap where they use, I think they're using molasses.
Yeah, you could dilute the molasses like
So
1 in 9, 1, 2, you know, 2 parts molasses, 8 parts water. And I think they use bamboo, in the field. Just simple, you split the bamboo in half, 1 joint, and you have the molasses there. Very simple. And they just come into it. So these are things you can always set around our field.
Drops of monothane or so.
Right, so yeah. So you give the escape.
You like trap them off, and there's a sweet, and when they go there, they fall in it, and that's it.
Yeah, so I think we have to step up some of the traps, because I remember I went to a session 2 weeks ago, it was on pesticide in the north, and one of the farmers was, like as usual, give us blows because there was this sticky trap that the same Cuban gentleman went around trying to establish, and like as he left, like everything just dropped. And if I'm saying you only continue with it, I think so. I want to step up the use of traps and see if we can get more integrated approach to this problem. So we were asked about diamondback moths. Is it a problem up here?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I wasn't aware it was. I know it has been a problem in the Paradise. Diamondback moth again is another very small moth, but it's larger than this one, but it's also another micro moth. A very small moth, and it requires, the thing with diamondback moth, it develops resistance to a lot of the traditional chemicals very easily, right? So this is one of the, so spraying alone, for example, in our neighboring country to the south, you know, for the management of diamondback moth, it's like a cocktail, 7, 8 pesticides they mix, and they hit those cabbage like every week. Yeah? So that's how bad it can get.
The diamondback moth was a problem mainly in the drier areas, Paradise, Falls, Telescope. And the approach we took then, because on the state here, no chemical will control diamondback. Even in Trinidad, where they're using a cocktail every 7 days, at the end of the crop, you see that you kill the cavity, white. And they barely get anything out of it. So one of the problems to control, remember I was talking about the environment, in the dry season, and cabbage is a perfect condition for the diamondback moth. And because of the way they feed, or the tunnels and get into it, the best practice for farmers, and I'm surprised now, that the diamondback moth moving into the interior garden. I don't know if you all noticed it. Because at one time, when it started before me, it wasn't a problem in the Union area. It was down in the Bucknell area. But because farmers, they might say, okay, the price for cabbages might be good that time, so they just grow it. You have more and more problem with diamondback moth. My recommendation is to cease growing cabbage in the area for a while, especially in the dry season. Because if you want to control, and besides the diamondback moth, another problem we have with cabbages in the dry season is white flies. You have a lot of white flies. And I've seen a field of cabbage in Moego, and I didn't expect it. The problem with white flies was so great that the field gets black, the cabbage didn't get black, and you have the high bones and things that come to feed on the cabbages. And my best advice to farmers is stop growing it. Because that farmer is telling me, as soon as I see one white fly, I spray it. But you have to tell yourself, who is consuming that thing? Remember, like I said, one professor said once, based on what we know now, there's things changing. In the USA, it was used another Roundup for years. And the knowledge changed. Because when they produce a chemical, they produce chemicals specific, like you said, to certain crops. But they have done very little damage. I had a farmer recently that told me what he noticed, I he's a vegetable farmer, that he lost his sense of feeling it. Wow. Yeah, he said he was noticing that mosquito biting him. He watching him and he's not feeling on the sun. I'm not too sure, but that could be overexposure to chemicals. And he said he did experiment on his hand, like, not so old guy, younger than me, and say he noticed that things biting him and he's not feeling it at all. So we have to understand, and I've always emphasized the environment for the pests. If you're doing the pests in the dry season, that's for the diamond bug moth and white flies, you'll have real problems. Another host for the diamond bug moth is the broom, the broom that we cut and sweep with. You have a lot of people sweep the yard and things. When the black stage and the bubble is a real host for the diamond bug moth. So if you notice a lot of these things around, because they have got no economical value, farmers don't pay attention to them. But they host the diamond bug moth a lot. Look at the leaves, all the leaves pierce up. So the best idea for controlling the diamond bug moth and the cabbages and the white flies, avoid it. You could do it in, say, for a Christmas market. Because one thing about the white flies, they don't like the body wet. That's what Mr. Peters? You prefer the dry. So it's not to start moving into the rainy season, the incident drop.
We had a question on ants. Ants was on Mr. New York. You had a question on ants.
Yes.
Ants on your tree crops or ants in your...
Ants generally like grow on trees like banana trees, they will stick on them and eat the banana.
Okay, a lot of ants, well, ants are there. I mean, most of the ants that make the nest on the ground is probably a different scenario, but most of the black ants that tend to be on the tree, most time they come because you have another problem. You already have probably mealybugs, scale insects, aphids, and they come to feed on what is they giving up, which is like a honeydew, right? So if you do any management for your mealybugs, if you have ladybug beetles all around you, they could eat it, but if you don't, and you do treatment, you need to spray. You could start with the oils. We talk about the oil spray, so it's environmentally friendly. Or you could go with some of the easier products like your Protector, your Numectin, or you could go with your tougher products like your Diazinon and your Karate and your Fast Stack and so on. That will knock out these insects for you.
But plants also trees and coconut trees.
Right, black ants. So yes, yeah. But for direct kill of the ants, you need some tough products. So you need things like your Fast Stack, your Pyrethroids, Karate, Diazinon. Yeah, they will knock out your ants on your trees. But everything comes with management. So if you're talking about pruning, field cleaning, if you're in banana, you know, the trashing and things, ants and things will just build up. Because in my banana, there are mealybugs under the leaf sheet. Once you start pulling out, you realize that you have mealybugs there and the ants coming for that. So if you're always managing and maintaining and cleaning around your banana stool, you won't have that buildup of ants. So you don't need to spray. In peppers, mainly, how somebody mentioned spider mites, so you can have spider mites, but the main mites on peppers, you have something called broad mites, and they will make the leaves very small. Now this one is not small due to mites, it's just nutrients. It doesn't get any nutrients. But the leaves will roll sort of slightly up and they get very narrow, like a spin, just very narrow. Once you see that, and they'll get a little bit bronze, a little bit brown. Once you see that, you know you have mites. Mites are very tiny, so you won't see it. You'll need a good hand lens or under a microscope. They look like a bit clearish, brown, and they're supposed to have 8 legs. Right? 4 pairs here. Some mites have 2 pairs. That's why I was trying to think back. So they have 4 pairs and they do a lot of rasping, scraping, so you see the little bronzing. And they reproduce, they have a life cycle of around 7 days. So in a matter of 5 to 7 days, another generation is out. So you could build up very quickly on your peppers. Miticides, oil sprays used because their body is small. Oils work on small, soft-bodied insects. They just suffocate them. So you can use, if you're in an organic production or into a lot of harvesting where, you know, pesticide is not appropriate, you can use oil sprays. But of course there are miticides, and we keep mentioning numectin and pure for the morning. They have worked well, I think, over the years. I'm not sure of other miticides. There are other products with miticide properties, but for now I'll stick with the numectin. What you have?
Aspergillus.
Never heard.
It's something you are common in market, so mine is very, very good. I recommend it also for farmers. Farmers being confident with it.
Okay.
And works very good.
Aspergillus? Okay, I look at the active ingredient, but so the thing with mites also, during the rain time, they don't always like this watering on the body. So during rain season, or if you have overhead irrigation, you could keep the population down. But you need to observe, monitor your field, look for those symptoms on your pepper field, because once might break out, based on your spacing and planting again, it could just run through your field very quickly, right? So you need to take control once you have an outbreak of mites, right? So oil sprays, or oil in combination with some of the product, numectin. Numectin is a class, I think 6 pesticides, so it's not heavy on the environment. So so it can be used. I mean, I keep saying numectin, but it's ivermectin really. So you have it as pure numectin, acarimec, right? Obimesan have it in it too. Alright, yeah. But it's combined with imidacloprid. So
Chris Williams, representing Huggins, farm and garden to be exact, but also I'm a farmer, and I'm very passionate about farming. First of all, I want to really congratulate the Ministry of Agriculture for this initiative. I am looking forward, and I'm also willing, on the behalf of Huggins, to collaborate with the Ministry of Agriculture on such initiatives. I think most farmers would agree that farming has been placed a bit on the back burner, and we're seeing the economical effects now that we actually do not have, the inputs from some of the more high-generated income factors where the economy is concerned. And I must say that farmers, Huggins, Farm and Garden, even myself personally, I support what you do, and we need to actually encourage our farmers. I won't elaborate too much on Huggins. We basically deal with everything where farming is concerned, from the clearance of your farm to right up to production, everything in between. As Mr. Peters said, we have been here for a while, so I won't really elaborate too much. Any further questions, you can always check us at the back with endeavor to actually answer. So, one thing I wanted to highlight to us as farmers, though, preventative maintenance. That is crucial. Most of us do specialize in different crops. Most of us do have traditional crops as well. But if we do not do preventative maintenance, that will actually affect us in the long run with regards to some of the inputs we have today. Additionally as well, education is very, very important. I noticed Mr. Lazarus will stress a lot on more biological effects and preventative issues with regards to physical attributes and stuff. But we cannot hide from the fact that weedicides, pesticides, chemicals in general are also integral with regards to mass production in the agricultural sector. We have to be reminded as farmers as well as our health is very important. And education goes back to that. Farmers, there are a lot of protective gears that could be utilized, from the boots to the protective clothing or mask or headgear. We have to remember we have families, and we want to live a very long and healthy life. And it doesn't mean that utilization of pesticides, and I mean, if it's used properly, could yield positive results as well. So I think education is something that we have to focus a bit on with regards to the different trend of thoughts that could be applied where agriculture is concerned. First of all, as I said, I won't talk too much. I just want to thank at least the Ministry of Agriculture for facilitating us, and I'm very happy to see a lot of our farmers here. And I'm looking forward to us having that in different districts.
My name is Robert Bristol. I'm the Managing Director of BRISTOL'S Pest and BRISTOL'S Pest Caribbean. We operate here. So what we do is, we are a pest control company generally. We also are involved in the import of chemicals, farming equipments, machinery, special orders and things of that nature. We're a company operating in Grenada, Carriacou, Martinique, and before the recent volcano, we just started our operations in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm really grateful for this wonderful opportunity. I'm happy to meet the farmers personally. I congratulate the Ministry of Agriculture for taking this amazing initiative. I've had my notepad all the while, taking notes. I've learned so much today. You can never learn too much, you know. I've been to school, you're taking all the information, but you get a refresher. So I think that the little presentation was really informative for me. And I really believe that, you know, we are all competitors in the same field, but we all have one common goal, and is to improve the quality of farming and food in Grenada. Mr. Lazarus spoke about the biological control, which I'm a big fan of, and I think that one of the main things that we've implemented in our company is prevention. And we know the importance of prevention. So, for instance, I come to you to deal with rodents. You have a whole set of wood under your house, garbage under your house, I'll just turn my back and go. Because I know that you're not going to get a solution. What you're going to get is a bill. I'm going to give you a bill. That's all you're going to get, is a bill. And I am not into that business of just giving people bills because I could. So normally we give people advice. And here is where we act as consultants also. So a farmer might have a concern. We could do field visits. We also offer the ability to supervise farms, and we clear land. So if a farmer have a couple acres of land want to get cleared, we hire a team of guys and we supervise that job. Instead of him having to worry about planting and still worry about 10 men that sitting under a tree while he's away, we take care of that for him. So as I said, I'll make this brief. I am really happy to be here today, and thank you for even listening to me in the first place. And hopefully, through this collaborative effort with the Ministry of Agriculture, we can go forward and make Grenada a bigger food basket. As we know what happened to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I think that this is also an opportunity for us to recognize that we have to take not really advantage, but step our game up. Because Trinidad was highly dependent on St. Vincent, and now that is affected, Grenada is right here. Trinidad is supposed to be able to divert and say, well, listen, I want certain amount of bananas, I want this. And one of the biggest things for me also, which I know farmers are concerned about, is market. This is something that we offer also. So if you're a farmer, you want to do some large-scale production, we will find market for you on the outside. Obviously, is regionally, throughout the Caribbean, because there are people who need stuff and on a consistent basis. So all these things is open for discussion whenever we could again. So thank you once more.
My true name is Jeloni Joseph, Managing Director of PJ&L. So I'll start with the issue of preventative. Prevention is always better to start, especially in farming. For example, you might have a field of cabbage, and you get harvest a field of cabbage and one plant tomato. But at the end of the day, two of them like whitefly. So in the meantime, when you harvest your field of cabbage, it's always better to prepare, sanitize, spray, make sure your field is clean. Use preventative measure before you go into tomatoes, especially in the whitefly, because two of them love the same crop. Right? And the next instance is reading. A lot of farmers buy chemicals and don't even read the label. It's very important. Because you might buy two different chemicals but same active ingredients. You're wasting money. And the rate is very important. Different crops need different supplements or different insect affect them. So that's the key thing to be mindful of. There's a lot of chemical outside there, there's a lot of companies. You see, there's a lot of competitors. But at the end of the day, come to solve the same common goal for the country and for farmers. Agriculture is the backbone of any country because everybody has to eat. You must eat no matter what. I know market is easier for farmers in Grenada based on crops and back to Mr. Lazarus again, you want to go to biological. But the seed company these days make GMO. So you're going to have to look at means and ways. Yes, chemicals, they go look at those that have mid-marriage and your health and also the crop. Alright, so I don't want to be too long, so I'll end it. I want to thank the Eastern Division of Ministry of Agriculture for inviting me here this morning. Looking forward to working together and make agriculture better. Step up the standard for agriculture.
In Hopkins from Monks and Dovans, St. Andrews. Well, I do mainly vegetable farming, but I'm also the proprietor of Plant Tech Nursery. If you ever heard about Plant Tech Nursery, you get seedlings and so on from Monks and Dovans, yeah. That's my business, yeah.
So in relation to the session here today, do you think that it would benefit you as a farmer?
Well, yeah, those sessions always benefit, always benefit people. I think it was very good, very informative, and I was happy about it, glad to see the attendance this morning and so forth. I think it was a good exercise, yeah. Farmers have a lot to benefit from those things. I'm glad they mentioned about the mites, because mites is a terrible problem we have in this community now, especially in peppers, For instance, salad peppers, you hardly could get through that nice crop in these days with the mites, But I think we settle on a chemical that's effective, very effective on it, and I'm glad it was mentioned today, Because I think it's only chemical you could use to really fight mites. Not really. There is nothing biologically I think you could do. It's just rotation and chemical, So I'm glad I was able to be part of it.
My name is Leon Charles from Upper Capitol, Birch Grove. Short crop and permanent crop, not my cocoa. But that stuff,
Tell us about the session here today. Was it beneficial to you as a farmer?
Yeah, I love this session. I take in a lot, especially on the peppers. I don't really usually do peppers, I do cabbages, carrots, beet, seasoning, and then we have cocoa and nutmeg and other crops. But I do all farming the livestock, car, my cattle and everything, But for the peppers, I learn a lot about the peppers because I was struggling with a couple of peppers tree for the longest while. Keep on shooting them up and up, and I never knew it was the mite that was damaging the pepper. So right about now, to clean up the whole field and look for new areas to do my pepper and thing. But I enjoyed it today. Trust me, I enjoyed it. It was a nice experience. It's a learning experience for me too.
Do you think that you captured enough to probably help other farmers?
Yeah. Of course I do, because I love helping. That's my passion to help. I really do farming, not really much for the money's sake, Although I have to sell a little thing to keep my thing going, but it's just the passion. Because I grew up, I will tell you, I come from around in school. I love to be a farmer with speed, fork, and hoe. With sharp cutlass, I cut the edge, all the grass I grow potatoes, beans and peas, plant bananas at my ease, with lovely vegetables of all kinds. And when my job is done, I will sit down in the sun, smoke my little stubby pipe, relax for the day.